secrets don't stay buried forever. Episode 9 of Gen V pulls back the curtain on lies, betrayals, and the dark truths hidden inside Godolkin University. Every shocking twist forces us to question who we can trust, and every reveal ties this bloody story deeper into the world of the boys. If you thought the students were just pawns, this episode proves they're at the center of something far more dangerous. Let's break it down. Episode 9 of Gen V doesn't just continue the story, it changes the entire game. From the very first scene, the tone is clear. The fight is no longer about classes, popularity, or surviving college life. It's about power, control, and survival in a world built on manipulation. The episode opens with a sharp reminder that Godolkin University was never meant to be a safe space for young Supes. It was a lab, a stage, and a weapon factory disguised as a school. And Episode 9 finally shows us how far the people in charge are willing to go to protect their empire. What makes this episode stand out is how it balances two things at once: the explosive action that fans expect, and the careful unraveling of hidden truths that completely shift how we view the story. Every scene feels like a thread being pulled, leading us deeper into the tangled web of conspiracies. From secret files, to manipulative experiments, to the blurred line between hero and villain, Episode 9 makes it clear that nobody is truly innocent. This isn't just another chapter in the story of young Supes. It's a revelation. For the first time, the students fully realize the weight of the lies they've been living under. Their powers, their training, even their friendships are not what they seem. And as the truth comes out, it sets the stage for chaos not only inside Godolkin, but across the entire world of the boys. Because what happens in these hidden labs doesn't stay contained, it spreads, infecting everything around it. In terms of structure, Episode 9 acts like a mirror. It reflects the struggles of the students Marie, Andre, Jordan, Emma, and Cate, but it also reflects the greater themes of the boys: the cost of power, the corruption of authority, and the consequences of blind trust. Every major character is forced to make a choice in this episode, and none of those choices come without pain. This is what makes the storytelling so powerful. It doesn't give us clean heroes and villains. It gives us flawed, desperate people trying to survive in a system designed to break them. The context of Episode 9 is also important, because it doesn't exist in isolation. It's the culmination of everything that came before it. Remember the cover-ups in Episode 8? The uneasy alliances, the hints of betrayal? Episode 9 takes all of those threads and pulls them tight, creating a story that is both thrilling and deeply unsettling. We start to see how Godolkin isn't just a school, it's a testing ground for ideas that will shape the future of Supes in society. And behind it all, Vought looms large, pulling strings and watching every move like a shadow we can't escape. But what's truly gripping about Episode 9 is the way it forces the audience to ask hard questions. How much of who we are is our choice, and how much is manipulation? Can people raised on lies ever discover the truth and survive it? And perhaps the darkest question of all, if the system is corrupt to the core, is it even possible to fight it without becoming just as corrupt? These questions hang over every moment of the episode, making it not just entertainment but a sharp reflection of power and morality. As we move forward in this breakdown, keep one thing in mind. Every reveal in Episode 9 is not just about the characters, it's about the world they live in. A world where corporations play God, where trust is a weapon, and where every secret has a bloody price. And by the end of this episode, the students of Godolkin are forced to realize the truth. They are not just victims of the system. They are its most dangerous creations. Before Episode 9 blindsides us with revelations, we need to rewind to Episode 8, because that's where the seeds of chaos were planted. Episode 8 was not just a setup, it was a storm quietly brewing. Every scene dripping with tension, betrayal, and the weight of secrets about to explode. To truly understand Episode 9, you have to look back at the moves made in the shadows during Episode 8. The story of Episode 8 begins with trust already fractured. The students of Godolkin University are no longer the bright-eyed recruits dreaming of glory. They've seen too much the cover-ups, the manipulations, The experiments in the woods, every conversation carries suspicion, every alliance feels temporary. And yet they are forced to work together, because survival demands it. One of the most striking threads in episode 8 is the role of Cate. She has always been a complicated figure, powerful, persuasive, and deeply connected to the heart of the group. But episode 8 made it painfully clear that her loyalty is not what it seems. The way she uses her powers to manipulate minds becomes not just a skill, but a weapon. And the way she manipulates her own friends leaves scars that episode 9 will only deepen. Cate's choices in episode 8 draw a thick line between her and the others, forcing us to question whether she's acting out of fear, survival, or something far darker. At the same time, episode 8 builds on Emma's transformation, both physical and emotional. Once underestimated, Emma proves that size doesn't define strength. Her shrinking ability becomes more than just a gimmick. It becomes a symbol of resilience. But while she fights for her place among the group, episode 8 shows us how fragile her confidence truly is. The pressure of betrayal, the weight of sacrifice, it all comes crashing down, making her one of the most human and relatable characters in this storm of Supes. Andre's story in episode 8 is no less complicated. Torn between the legacy of his father and the reality of his own choices, he embodies the theme of generational trauma. The pressure of carrying his family's name, combined with the chaos around him, puts him at the breaking point. Episode 8 reveals how heavy the burden of expectation really is, setting up the choices he'll be forced to make in episode 9, Jordan. Ever the balance of duality becomes the glue holding the group together, even as they struggle with their own identity. Their shifting between forms is not just a physical change, it's a metaphor for the constant balancing act of loyalty, trust, and morality. In episode 8, Jordan finds themselves at a crossroads, to protect their friends or to protect themselves. Their choices carry enormous weight, and episode 9 shows the price of those decisions. Marie, meanwhile, emerges in episode 8 as both a leader and a survivor. Her powers, once terrifying and misunderstood, become the very thing that defines her. She steps into the spotlight not because she wants to, but because she has to. The truth about the woods, the experiments, the manipulation, the sheer scale of Vought's corruption pushes her into a position she never asked for. Episode 8 shows her struggling to lead, to make sense of the chaos, and to prepare for the inevitable showdown. But perhaps the most chilling part of episode 8 is the atmosphere of control. Godolkin University, with its shiny halls and false promises, is revealed as nothing more than a cage. The woods is no longer a whispered rumor. It's real, it's horrifying, and it's tied directly to the students' lives. The experiments carried out in secret are not just about testing powers. They're about weaponizing them. Episode 8 makes it crystal clear Vought has bigger plans, and the students are nothing more than test subjects in a game much larger than themselves. The episode ends with lines drawn, hearts broken, and the sense that nothing will ever be the same again. Betrayal has torn the group apart. Secrets have poisoned trust. And the looming threat of Vought hangs heavier than ever. Episode 8 doesn't give us resolution, it gives us fuel. Fuel for the fire that will erupt in episode 9. Looking back, episode 8 is like the sharp intake of breath before the scream. It's the calm before the storm, though calm is hardly the right word. Every frame drips with the knowledge that something is coming. And when that something finally arrives in episode 9, it's not just a plot twist, it's an earthquake that shakes the entire foundation of Godolkin University and everything the students thought they knew about themselves. Episode 9 wastes no time. From the opening moment, the air feels heavy, like the walls of Godolkin University themselves are closing in on the students. Everything that's been whispered, hinted, or teased across the season is dragged out into the open. And the truth is uglier than anyone expected. Episode 9 isn't about comfort, it's about confrontation. The episode begins with the group fractured, still carrying the wounds of episode 8's betrayals. The fragile trust between them is shattered, and the silence speaks louder than words. Marie tries to keep the group focused, but every glance, every hesitation reminds us that they are walking on broken glass. Even before the first reveal, we know one wrong step could destroy them completely, and then comes the unraveling of the woods. The truth of what lies beneath Godolkin University finally bleeds into the light. This is no ordinary lab, it's a dungeon of horrors, a place where science and cruelty hold hands. The students stumble upon files, recordings, and evidence that show just how deep Vought's reach goes. It's not just about testing powers anymore. It's about building weapons. Supes aren't being educated, they're being engineered. Every shocking image and every whispered confession from scientists forces the students to face the fact that their entire lives have been manufactured. One of the most devastating reveals centers around Cate in episode 9. Her manipulations are no longer something she can hide. We see the full extent of how her powers have been used not only against enemies but against her friends. It's not just the betrayal that hurts, it's the realization that none of the bonds they thought were real can be trusted. The moment when the group realizes how far Cate has gone with her influence is one of the most heartbreaking beats of the episode. It's not a villain's reveal in the traditional sense, it's the unraveling of someone who once stood beside them. The episode also brings Emma into sharper focus. She isn't just the underdog anymore, she becomes the emotional core. Her resilience, her refusal to give in, even when the others falter, makes her one of the most powerful presences on screen. There's a sequence where she confronts the idea of being seen as expendable, and it's gut-wrenching. She represents every student who bought into the dream of Godolkin only to discover it was a nightmare. Her courage in this episode proves that power isn't about size or strength, it's about the willingness to fight even when hope feels lost. Andre's story also takes a darker turn in episode 9. The more he learns about his father's involvement with Vought, the heavier his burden becomes. He starts to see himself not as a hero in training, but as the next in a line of corrupted legacies. His frustration boils over in violent bursts, his powers lashing out like his emotions are too heavy to contain. Every choice Andre makes in this episode feels like he's standing at the edge of a cliff, one push away from either redemption or destruction. Jordan, as always, walks the line between dual identities. Episode 9 highlights their role as a mediator, someone trying desperately to keep the group together even as everything falls apart. Their powers become a metaphor for their inner conflict, the constant shift between forms mirroring the constant shift in trust and loyalty. But by the end of the episode, even Jordan can't hold it together. Their final confrontation with Cate leaves a scar that will define where they stand in the episodes to come. Marie, however, commands the spotlight. The revelations about the woods, about Vought, about the lies wrapped around her entire existence, push her into a role she never asked for. She becomes the voice of the group, the one demanding answers, the one refusing to stay silent. But leadership comes with a cost. In episode 9, Marie realizes that her power is not just blood, it's responsibility. And the responsibility of leading a broken team into the fight of their lives weighs heavy on her shoulders. The episode's pacing is relentless. It swings between quiet moments of emotional devastation and explosive bursts of violence. Fights break out, not just between students and their enemies, but between each other. Words cut deeper than fists. Powers are unleashed not in training exercises, but in desperate survival. Every confrontation feels raw, as though the characters themselves are realizing for the first time just how dangerous they are. But the most chilling moment of episode 9 is the revelation of the bigger plan. Godolkin isn't just an experiment, it's a pipeline. The research from the woods, the manipulation of students, the lies, all of it is feeding into something far larger than a university. It's about control on a global scale. The students are pawns in a game designed to shape the future of Supes in society. And as that truth lands, the group finally understands, escaping Godolkin won't be enough. This fight is bigger than them, bigger than the school. It's about survival in a world where corporations play God. Episode 9 doesn't give us easy answers. Instead, it leaves us with a string of devastating truths and the sinking realization that the students are standing on the edge of war. Betrayals have been revealed. Loyalties have crumbled. and the curtain has been pulled back to show the darkness that was always hiding in plain sight. By the time the credits roll, one thing is certain: nothing will ever be the same again. Asterisk. Episode 9 is not just about shocking reveals and high-stakes action. It's about the people caught in the middle of it all. If the key plot points are the skeleton of the episode, then the character arcs are its beating heart. Every choice, every betrayal, and every revelation digs deeper into what drives these students. And what becomes painfully clear is that their motivations are not just about survival, they are about identity, power, and the desperate need to belong in a world that sees them as weapons instead of people. Let's start with Marie. Because episode 9 pushes her further than anyone else, she has always been defined by the blood in her veins, her gift, her curse, her weapon. But in this episode, we see her transition from being haunted by her powers to owning them. Marie doesn't want to be the leader, but the truth forces her into the role anyway. Every time her friends argue, every time trust breaks down, she steps in as the voice of reason. What makes her arc powerful is not just her strength, but her unwillingness to back down in the face of ugly truths. She's not motivated by glory or recognition, she's motivated by the need to make sure none of them are swallowed whole by Vought's lies. The moment she realizes that being a leader means carrying everyone's burdens, not just her own, is where her story hits its peak. Now let's talk about Andre. His arc in episode 9 is soaked in conflict between the legacy of his father and the reality of his own life. Andre has spent the season trying to prove that he's worthy, that he can live up to the name that looms over him. But episode 9 finally forces him to confront the truth. That legacy is poisoned. He's not just battling Vought, he's battling the ghost of what his father represented. His motivations turn darker here, not just about protecting his friends, but about proving that he is not doomed to repeat the same cycle of corruption. Watching him wrestle with this weight is both heartbreaking and electrifying, because we see a young man on the edge, trying to decide if he will fight for his friends or let anger consume him. Jordan has always been a character of balance, and episode 9 amplifies this duality. Switching between forms is more than a superpower, it's a constant reminder of the dual sides of their identity. And in this episode, that identity becomes their motivation. Jordan wants to be more than just the body that shifts, more than just a student caught in the crossfire of someone else's war. They want to protect, to prove that they are more than a variable in Vaught's experiments. Their arc is about control, not control of others, but control of themselves. And in episode 9, the line between protector and fighter blurs, showing just how far they're willing to go to keep their friends alive. Then there's Emma. If Marie is the reluctant leader, Emma is the emotional anchor. Her power to shrink may look small, but her heart is massive, and episode 9 makes that clear. What drives Emma is not power or ambition, it's connection. She wants to be seen, to be valued, to be more than the girl who gets overlooked. In this episode, she proves again and again that she is indispensable. But her arc also reveals her deepest fear, that no matter what she does, she never truly belongs. This vulnerability makes her one of the most human characters in the chaos. And when she stands her ground in the face of overwhelming odds, her bravery shines brighter than anyone else's. And then we have Cate, the most complicated arc of all. Her motivations are a twisted reflection of the others. Cate isn't driven by loyalty, she's driven by survival, by the desperate need to stay in control when everything feels unstable. Episode 9 exposes just how far she's gone to manipulate the people closest to her. But what makes her story so chilling is that she doesn't see herself as the villain. In her mind, every choice she makes is justified, every manipulation is necessary. She tells herself that she's doing it to protect the group, even as she tears them apart. Cate's arc is about control, and the terrifying realization that she has crossed a line she can never come back from. She becomes both the victim of her own fear and the architect of the group's collapse. Together, these arcs form a mosaic of desperation, courage, and betrayal. Each character is fighting for something different: Marie for truth, Andre for redemption, Jordan for identity, Emma for belonging, and Cate for control. And that's what makes episode 9 so devastating. Their motivations collide. What one character needs becomes the very thing that destroys another. The cracks between them grow wider, not because they don't care about each other, but because their paths are pulling them in opposite directions. By the end of the episode, we realize that these aren't just students anymore. They've been forced to grow, to confront truths they were never ready for. Their arcs in episode 9 are not just about surviving this one moment, they're about shaping who they will become. Heroes, villains, leaders, traitors. Episode 9 doesn't give us simple answers. It gives us the raw truth that these characters are defined by their choices, and every choice comes with a price. And as the credits roll, we're left with one haunting thought. If this is who they are now, what will they become when the final battle comes? Episode 9 of Gen V is not just about shocking twists and intense confrontations, it's about the ideas buried beneath the chaos. Every scene, every line of dialogue, and every character choice ties back to larger themes that define the series. This episode in particular is layered with meaning, weaving together symbolism that reflects the world of the boys while also carving out a unique identity for Gen V. Let's break down the themes that drive this chapter and the symbols that give it its depth. The first and most obvious theme is control versus freedom. Godolkin University has always sold itself as a place of opportunity, where young Supes can find themselves and become the next generation of heroes. But episode 9 strips away the mask, showing that Godolkin was never about freedom, it was about control. The woods becomes the ultimate symbol of this theme, a hidden prison where freedom is not only denied but dissected. The students, once dreaming of glory, realize they were never meant to choose their own futures. They were meant to be molded, tested, and weaponized. This theme doesn't just affect the students, it resonates with the larger world of the boys, where Supes are marketed like products and freedom is an illusion sold for profit. Another powerful theme is truth and deception. Episode 9 constantly asks, what is real and what is a lie? Every major reveal is tied to deception. Vought hiding the truth about the woods. Cate hiding the truth from her friends, the university hiding the truth from the world. The very foundation of the students' lives is built on manipulation. Even their powers, which should be their most authentic expressions, are revealed to be part of an experiment. Symbolically, the broken friendships in this episode mirror the broken trust in the larger world. When truth finally breaks through, it's not liberating, it's devastating. Closely tied to this is the theme of identity. Who are these students, really? Are they individuals, or are they products of Vaught's design? Episode 9 pushes every character to confront this question. For Marie, her blood powers symbolize the weight of her past and the truth she can't escape. For Jordan, the shifting between forms symbolizes the struggle of dual identity, not just physically but emotionally, as they try to balance who they want to be against who the world demands they become. For Emma, her shrinking symbolizes the fear of being overlooked, yet it also becomes a metaphor for finding strength in vulnerability. And Cate's manipulative powers symbolize the loss of authenticity. If you can control what others think, then what does it mean to have a genuine relationship? Identity in this episode is never stable, and that instability becomes a mirror for the audience. Who are we when our choices are stripped away? Then there's the theme of power and corruption. This is at the core of the boys' universe, but episode 9 gives it a uniquely personal twist. Power here is not just about who can fight harder, it's about who can shape reality. Vaught's control over Godolkin is the ultimate example of institutional corruption, where money and influence twist morality into something unrecognizable. But the corruption seeps into the students too. Cate uses her powers in ways that blur the line between protection and exploitation. Andre lashes out violently as his anger grows uncontrollable. Even Marie, the moral center, struggles with the responsibility of wielding her gift. Episode 9 forces us to see that power doesn't corrupt in an instant, it corrodes slowly, eating away at trust, at friendship, at humanity. Symbolism also plays a huge role in how these themes are delivered. Blood is everywhere in this episode, not just as Marie's weapon, but as a symbol of truth and sacrifice. Blood reveals lies, binds people together, and stains everything it touches. It reminds us that the cost of discovering the truth is always pain. The woods itself is a symbol of the hidden rot beneath shiny surfaces. On the outside, Godolkin is glamorous, full of lights and promises. But beneath in the woods, the real story unfolds, dark, cruel, and undeniable. This duality mirrors the larger world of the boys, where superhero marketing hides corruption and greed. Another striking piece of symbolism comes through mirrors and reflections. Several moments in Episode 9 show characters literally confronting their reflections, whether in windows, mirrors, or even each other's eyes. These visuals reinforce the theme of identity. Who are they when stripped of lies? Are they heroes or just weapons polished to shine in someone else's war? These reflective moments make us question whether the students are looking at themselves or at the versions of themselves Vought created. The theme of betrayal and loyalty is also central. Episode 9 reminds us that betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from those we love. Cate's manipulations are devastating not because she tricked strangers, but because she broke the trust of her closest friends. Betrayal here symbolizes the collapse of community, the destruction of the only safe spaces these students thought they had. And yet loyalty survives in unexpected ways. Emma's refusal to abandon her friends, Jordan's attempts to hold the group together, Marie's determination to lead these sparks of loyalty are the only things keeping the group from completely imploding. Finally, the overarching theme of Episode 9 is the cost of truth. The truth about the woods, about Vought, about themselves, it all comes at a price. The students wanted answers, but when the answers arrive, they are more devastating than the lies. Truth doesn't set them free, it traps them in a war they can't escape. This theme connects directly to the larger narrative of the boys, where truth is often more terrifying than fiction. By the end of the episode, the themes and symbolism combine to deliver a message that is both bleak and powerful. Freedom is fragile, truth is dangerous, and identity is never simple in a world built on control. Episode 9 doesn't just entertain, it forces us to reflect. What lies do we accept because they're easier than the truth? And how much of our identity is really our own when systems of power decide who we are allowed to be? Episode 9 doesn't just stand alone, it bleeds directly into the DNA of the boys' universe. Every reveal, every shadowy secret, is a reminder that Godolkin University is not an isolated stage. It's a branch of Vought's empire, and the roots stretch deep into the wider story fans already know. One of the most striking connections is the way the woods echoes everything we've seen about Vought's obsession with control. Just like Compound V turned children into Supes without their consent, the woods represents the next step, turning those Supes into weapons. This connects back to the idea in the boys that Vought doesn't just want superheroes, they want soldiers, living products to sell to governments and corporations. Episode 9 makes it crystal clear that Godolkin is part of this machinery. We also see direct nods to Homelander and the Seven, even if they don't appear on screen. Their presence hangs over the university like ghosts, a constant reminder of what happens when Vought's success stories are unleashed on the world. The fear in the students' voices when Homelander's name is mentioned shows how powerful his shadow is. In many ways, Episode 9 sets up these students as the next generation who could either become saviors or the next Homelander-level threat. There are also subtle Easter eggs tying the events of Gen V to what fans know will unfold in The Boys Season 4, mentions of government contracts, secret experiments, and weaponized Supes all point toward a larger plan that will spill out beyond the walls of Godolkin. Episode 9 feels less like a side story and more like a missing puzzle piece that locks perfectly into place with the bigger narrative, and symbolically, the collapse of trust among the students mirrors the fractures we've already seen in the Seven, just like the boys shows us that heroes can't truly function as a team when their foundation is rotten. Episode 9 proves that the same corruption spreads to the next generation. These young Supes are not just victims, they're previews of the future Vought is building. In short, Episode 9 doesn't just expand the story of Gen V, it reinforces the idea that nothing in this world happens by accident. Every experiment, every betrayal, every bloody secret inside Godolkin is part of a chain reaction that leads directly into the chaos of the boys. Asterisk. The ending of episode 9 hits like a gut punch. After all of the revelations, betrayals, and emotional fractures, the final moments make it clear the fight is far from over. The students aren't just running from Godolkin anymore, they're standing on the edge of a war that will bleed into the wider world of Supes. The closing sequence brings everything to a boil. Marie steps forward as the reluctant leader, her voice trembling but unshaken while the group splinters around her. Cate, fully exposed, stands as both a villain and a victim of her own choices. Andre wrestles with his rage, Jordan struggles to keep hold of their identity, and Emma refuses to let her smallness define her. The episode ends not with resolution, but with a cliffhanger that promises even more chaos. The truth about the woods is too big to stay hidden. And this is where the future predictions come into play. The way episode 9 closes, it's clear Vought will double down. They won't let these secrets spill into the public without a fight. That means the students aren't just enemies of the university anymore, they're enemies of the corporation itself. This sets the stage for a confrontation that could pull in figures from the boys directly, tying the two shows tighter than ever before. The symbolism of the ending is unmistakable. The students aren't heroes yet, and they aren't villains either. They're something new, something unpredictable, and that makes them dangerous. If Godolkin was the cage, then episode 9's ending is the moment the cage door finally cracks open. But what comes out won't be easy to control, looking forward. Episode 10, or even a second season, will likely push these themes further. Will Marie embrace leadership fully or crumble under the weight? Will Cate redeem herself or fall deeper into darkness?